Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh and Southern Bancorp for being a part of this month's luncheon. Our presenting sponsor today is Methodist Olive Branch Hospital. I'd like to welcome at this time the president of Methodist Olive Branch Hospital and also the president of Methodist Hospital's International Healthcare Consulting Division, Mr. David Betos.
Well, thank you very much. And in preparing my remarks for today, I remembered it was about 12 years ago that at a luncheon similar to this, that we first presented to our community the plan for our Olive Branch Hospital. And we started the journey of getting approval by the State Department of Health to allow us to build the hospital here in Olive Branch. And as I look out on the audience, I do see one individual who spent some time down in Jackson with me, convincing the state that there is a need for a hospital here in Olive Branch. Forrest Hamilton, thank you, Forrest, for your help. And I do want to recognize a couple of people. We did celebrate our 10th anniversary back in August. Again, we were the first new hospital 10 years ago in Mississippi in 25 years, and there's not been another hospital approved since then. But because of the need here, one of the requirements for us is that we had to show that the county would increase population over 10% over 10 years. Well, take a look over the last 10 years the hospital's been here. The county increased 16%. Here at Olive Branch, 24%. So we are a growing community. So thank you for everything you do. Since it was our 10th anniversary, I do want to welcome three of our members of our team who's been with us since the opening. Dr. Shailesh Patel, our hospitalist, Annalisa Jensen, our Chief Medical Officer, and Madeline Cook, who's our Girl Friday. She'll do anything for the hospital. I'm sure many of you have met Madeline over the years. So in looking at it, I couldn't think of anybody better on our 10th anniversary to talk a little bit about what the hospital means to this community than Sam Rikard. Sam is a lifelong resident of Olive Branch and is married to Paula Mills Rikard. Sam attended Northwest Community College and received a certificate of broadcast in meteorology from the Mississippi State University. And a great university. I had a daughter that went there. And if you're on the internet, you can always check out the latest weather reports from Sam. Sam was employed for 25 years at Bell South Telecommunications in Memphis. He served 2 terms as a member of Olive Branch's Board of Aldermen before being elected our mayor in 1997. He served in that role until June of 2013. Sam enjoys spending his retirement time with his family, traveling and providing consulting services in the field of meteorology. Sam is one of our original board of directors members of our hospital and is currently chair of the board. So again, another reason why I couldn't think of anybody better to talk about our hospital. Sam is one of the first members of our Olive Branch community that I had the privilege of meeting back in 2010. And we, again, spent a lot of time in Jackson. But the thing I'm most proud about is when Sam came and said, hey, would you give us an acre of your property? We're growing out this way towards the hospital. We need a new water tower. So I said, sure, I'll go in with you, Sam. But the deal was the city gets their symbol on 2 sides. Olive Branch, Methodist Olive Branch gets on the other side. And with the help of our current mayor, we now have lighting at night. So thank you, sir. So again, please join me in welcoming Sam Rikard.
Well, we can talk about the hospital or the weather. What do you want to talk about? Check with me after the meeting. We'll talk about the storms tonight. But, I was reminiscing when David called me and asked me to speak today. It's been 11 years since I stood at this podium and talked to the Chamber of Commerce, and at that time I thought I would never do it again, you know, and I may never do it again after today. But I'm going to reminisce a little bit about the process we went through to make the hospital possible, and some of the hurdles, some of the little bumps in the road, and all. It's been, as I said, 11 years since I took this podium. It's been over 25 years since my first meetings with Methodist Hospital in 1998, I believe. And over the next few minutes, I want to paint a picture of and relay to you the 15-year journey of how Methodist Hospital came to be. A journey that began in 1998 and culminated with the grand opening of the hospital in 2013. Many conversations, many trips to Jackson, constant monitoring of status of bills in the state legislature were ongoing year after year. And I'll back up a little in time. Back in the middle 1980s, when I was a volunteer emergency medical technician, riding one of Olive Branch's ambulances every Saturday night from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Until 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, our transport options were limited to hospitals only in Memphis. There were no hospitals in DeSoto County then. The most common response a patient would give us when we pick them up is, "Where do you want us to take you to?" And they would always say, "The closest one," you know. And that, in those days, would mean Eastwood Hospital on Getwell Road or Methodist South in Whitehaven. And if the patient needed a higher level of care, we went to Methodist Central, that's what it was called in those days, St. Francis Baptist Downtown, or the Med in downtown Memphis. We were elated in 1988 when the hospital opened in South Haven, because that meant our patients could get care faster than before. Of course, that was when Goodman Road was a two-lane road and less traveled, and before the growth of the area simply exploded. In 1990, the population of Olive Branch was about 3,500 people, according to the census, and the roads were not nearly as crowded as they are today, or as they were in 98. By 1998, the population was closing in on 20,000, and things were different. Transportation issues were different, and of course, the demand for health care was growing also. We fast forward to 1998, my second year as mayor. A group from Methodist Hospital and some local interested people met with me and announced their plans and dreams to build a hospital in Olive Branch. Visionary local people such as Pat Dorr, Representative Tommy Woods, and Chamber Executive Director Jack McCauley were present at that meeting, along with officials from Methodist Hospital. Property had been acquired for the hospital, although later in the process it was determined that the current location of the hospital was a much better location. That was an exciting day, and I had no idea that it would take another 15 years to make a hospital a reality here. I learned several things quickly early on in government. Things cost more and take much longer to make happen than you ever dreamed possible. When you involve local governments, state governments, and state agencies, progress seemed to stop completely at times. We encountered opposition from other healthcare facilities, which made things interesting politically locally. There was a little bump in the road called the State Health Plan and a Certificate of Need. Mississippi is divided into several health districts, and the state plan did not allow for a new hospital in DeSoto County. Early on, recognizing that there were approved beds that were not being used in the Delta, we thought simply transferring those to Olive Branch would make approval easy. A deal was worked out with that hospital, but we were wrong. The idea was not going to make it through the state regulators. Our local delegation, including the late Senator Bill Minor, Senator Merle Flowers, the late Representative Tommy Woods, were early dedicated supporters, along with Representative Forrest Hamilton, and ultimately the late Congressman Allen Nunley, who was a state senator at the time, along with Phil Bryant, the lieutenant governor. Lee Smart is another longtime supporter, an advocate, also along with Pat Dorr. Senator David Parker and former Representative Wanda Jennings and Senator Kevin Blackwell is with us today. So year after year, we tried to gain approval through the state legislature by going through the local and private bill process. If you know anything about the Mississippi legislature, you know that the chairperson of the committee rules. If the chairperson does not support a bill, it does not get passed on to the full body. Some years, no bills made it out of any health committee. Some years, the bill might pass out of the Senate Health Committee, but not the House Committee. The next year, it seemed like the opposite would happen. I recall one year where our bills passed both the House and the Senate, but were different, and they died in a conference committee. Those efforts were very frustrating because we knew that a hospital was needed, but we could not make it happen on our own. We employed a lobbying firm to assist us with the legislature. I would, again, monitor the legislative updates every day that they were in session. As we said, David Betos was with us from the beginning, and David, I always found it interesting that you were president of the Mississippi Division and the International Division, that we were grouped with China and those other countries there. Numerous trips to Jackson to testify before Senate and House committees and the State Board of Health had not yielded satisfactory results. Then somewhere around the year 2010, our Lieutenant Governor at the time, Phil Bryant, who was always a very strong supporter of a hospital in Olive Branch, said, "We're not going to make this happen through legislation. The rules are the problem. We have got to change the rules in order to make this happen." With the Lieutenant Governor's help, the State Department of Health proposed a rule change that would allow for a second hospital to be located in DeSoto County. Hearings about the rule change were held. The opposition testified, we testified. The rule change passed the Board of Health and was not appealed. We had been told by those that opposed us that we just want you to go by the rules. So we were able to change the rules, and the rest is history. Methodist Hospital applied for the Certificate of Need, went through the process, and was approved. This was the first new hospital approved in Mississippi in 25 years. Construction began, and the hospital opened in August of 2013, 2 months after I retired as mayor of Olive Branch. I recall a trip, though, we took to Jackson after the Certificate of Need was approved to seek state funding for road and utility infrastructure improvements. We had the presentation all planned out with charts and pictures and lots of words, and some might even call it a dog and pony show. But very quickly, Governor Bryant, I don't know if you know, been around Governor Bryant, but when he puts his glasses like this and looks over them, he gets serious, you know. He did that, and he said, "Mayor, let's cut to the chase. How much do you need?" And I said, I can't remember, $1.5 million or $2 million. And he looked over at the staff person and says, let's take a look at that and get back with him this afternoon. Later that afternoon, I got the call from the governor's office, and he said, "Mayor, will $2 million be enough?" And I said, "Thank you, Governor, I believe it will." Hospital is approved for 100 beds, is built with expansion in mind, and is required to participate in the state trauma system and also meet certain requirements for indigent care. I'm proud to say that this hospital has always met and exceeded those needs, and has always been a very highly rated facility by any and all rating entities. One of the best, in my opinion, the best in the area. Over the 16 years that I served as mayor, I worked on many projects, but none took as long as this one, and none were as satisfying to see come to reality. In my opinion, the creation of Methodist Olive Branch could possibly be the most important single thing accomplished during my term as mayor. The positive impact will be felt for years to come. We have seen dramatic changes in our local EMS team's abilities to provide a high level of care over the years. When I volunteered, we were an EMT basic unit and would transport to Memphis hospitals 20, 30, maybe 35 minutes away. Now paramedic units cover our county, and if you live in Olive Branch, the hospital is only minutes away. Minutes in an emergency healthcare industry are critical. I recall when I was an EMT, every now and then, we would not receive a call all night long. That's over a 12-hour period. I basically rode the ambulance. Now the Olive Branch paramedics average over 14 calls each day, most transporting to Methodist Olive Branch. There are many things or amenities that help make for a complete community: public safety, parks, and adequate infrastructure, transportation routes. The one component that we as a city could not provide on our own was a higher level of health care. Methodist Hospital filled that void. I'm now serving my final year, year 11, on the local board of Methodist Olive Branch, somewhat of an end to a very long journey that began in 1998. Serving on this board has allowed me to see firsthand the impact that this hospital has had on the community. Most patients come from DeSoto County, about 50%. Many come from Marshall County, about 20%. In 2023, over 5,000 people were admitted as patients. Over 41,000 emergency room visits were made. 798 babies were born, and 883 surgeries performed. This year, close to 44,000 people will probably visit the emergency room. From a cold early winter groundbreaking to a hot August 2013 grand opening, the culmination of a very long journey brought Governor Bryant, Senator Roger Wicker, and Congressman Alan Nunley to Olive Branch to celebrate with us. The community filled the tent. The Olive Branch High School Drum Corps added to the excitement. David Betos encouraged us to celebrate, and celebrate we did. Congressman Nunley said this hospital will provide opportunities for our children and grandchildren for years to come. Senator Wicker said there will not be a finer facility on the face of the earth. Governor Bryant said, and I like this, I believe that the divine creator had a hand in building this hospital because there is no way we could have done this on our own, although this is the most determined group of humans that I've ever been around. I agreed. One statement that I made on several occasions all throughout that process was, if we keep knocking on the hospital door, one of these days they're going to let us in. And they did. I also said on that day, it is said good things come to those who wait. And by waiting almost 15 years, we got the best healthcare partner, the best location, and the best facility and team we could hope for. So here we are today, over 25 years after it all began. I can say that all of the time spent, all of the miles driven, and all the conversations held have been worth it. We have one of the finest facilities with the best leadership of any hospital around, and I'm just a little bit proud to have played a role in helping make it happen. I've served with the great group of volunteer board members, including Pat Dorr, Tommy Woods, Vicki Dupre, Lee Smart, Jamie Steen, Michael Hatcher, Merle Flowers, Michael Bellapani, Reverend Keith Mason, Dr. Michael Washington, Reverend Zachary Beasley, Dr. Tim Donovan, along with Methodist team of David Betos, Madeline Cook, Annalise Jensen, Chris Sanders, Robin Mathis, Linda Tuggle, and many others. I've had to visit the hospital on a few occasions myself in the emergency room, and it feels reassuring to know that help is only 1 or 2 exits away on Highway 78. The convenience of having your labs done, your MRIs done, and your echoes done locally are a real plus also. Recently, I was scheduled for some labs at the request of my cardiologist, who conveniently is located in the medical building at the entrance to the hospital. That morning I had the test done. I sat with a lady who was waiting also. She looked at me. She didn't know me. She said, "This sure is a nice hospital. I am so glad it's here." That statement made all of the efforts seem worth it to me. So thank you for listening, and thank you for what you do to make Olive Branch a wonderful place to live. Thank you.